everybody. Hope you all are fine. Today we are going to discuss the general features of the information carrying systems, both sensory and motor, in the central nervous system. So at the end of this session, the participant should be able to define a tract and know how to name a tract. Describe the neuronal organization in ascending and descending tracts. Classify ascending and descending tracts and their function. Describe the intersegmental tracts and their functions. And lastly, describe the anatomical principles for ascending and descending tracts, that is segmental organization and somatotopic arrangements. Millions of neurons deliver information from the environments, both internal and external, to the central nervous system all the time and keep the body well cognizant. At the same time, millions of neurons deliver information from central nervous system to the effector system and cause the body to respond in a variety of ways. Fibers of these sensory and motor neurons travel in the shape of several bundles within the brain and spinal cord and are named as tracts. A tract is a bundle of nerve fibers within central nervous system which have got similar origin, course, termination, and functions. It usually comprises two or more than two neurons in succession, exception being corticospinal tract, which comprises only one neuron. There are three groups of tracts. First one is ascending tracts, second are the descending tracts, and third group comprises intersegmental tracts. Now let us discuss how to name a tract. If name of a tract begins spino, such as spinothalamic tract, it delivers information from spinal cord to thalamus, hence is a sensory tract. If name ends as spinal, such as corticospinal tract, which delivers information from cerebral cortex to the spinal cord, hence is a motor tract. Now we start with the ascending tracts. These are multi-neuronal sensory pathways present inside the spinal cord and the brain stem. They transmit somatosensory information up to variable level in the brain and are divided into two types. Type 1 is dependent upon the type of information and the site from where these tracts carry information. This type is divided into exteroception, which is the sensitivity to stimuli originating outside of the body, such as pain and touch. Second variety is proprioception. This is ability to sense body in the space, in the shape of movements and positions, and is carried out through muscles and joints. Third variety is interoception. This is information about the internal state of the body, such as feeling of hunger and thirst. And the person responds by craving food or drink that will satisfy the hunger or thirst. Neural pathway for interoception is vagus nerve and the anterolateral spinothalamic tracts. Second type of information is dependent upon the information transmission level. And is divided further into two subgroups: conscious level, in which these centers are located in the cerebral cortex, and these centers are responsible for our awareness, decision making, and control over our thoughts and actions. These informations are carried through anterolateral spinothalamic and dorsal column tract. Second variety of transmission level is some subconscious or non-conscious level information. In this type of information is carried up to subcortical centers, which are present below the cortex in the cerebrum and the brainstem. They are responsible for non-conscious processes that shape our beliefs, behavior, and action, and are carried out. These informations are carried out through spinocerebellar, spinotactal, spinoolivary, and spinoreticular tracts. Now we start with the conscious level tracts, their neuronal organization and functions. First, the neuronal organization. These tracts are three-tier neuronal organization system. The first order neurons, which are pseudo-unipolar neurons, are present in the dorsal root ganglion or cranial nerve ganglia, which lie alongside the spinal cord or brainstem. Their fibers synapse with the second order neurons, which are present in either in the dorsal gray horn of the spinal cord or in the cranial nerve nuclei and nuclei gracilis and cuneatus in the brainstem. The fibers of the second order neurons send and synapse with the third order neurons in the thalamus. The fibers of the third order neurons ultimately project to the cerebral cortex. Notable in this whole organization is that first order neurons are present in the peripheral nervous system, whereas the second order and third order neurons are present in the central nervous system. Now we come on to the tracts and their functions. These tracts convey contralateral exteroceptive information and are divided into two subgroups. First, the anterolateral column tracts, which are anterior and lateral spinothalamic tracts, and they convey pain, temperature, and crude touch. Second subgroup is posterior or dorsal column tracts, which are also named as fasciculi gracilis and cuneatus. They convey fine touch, two-point discrimination, conscious proprioception, and vibration sensations from muscle and joints. The second group, subconscious level tracts, their neuronal organization and functions. These tracts have got two or more than two-tier neuronal organization system. The first order neuron, the pseudo-unipolar neuron, are present in the dorsal root ganglia. The fibers of these neurons enter spinal cord and synapse with the second order neuron present in the dorsal gray horn of the spinal cord. Fibers ascend ipsilaterally. Some of the fibers cross and recross and ultimately become the ipsilateral. These fibers project to the cerebellum and other nuclei in the brainstem, including reticular nuclei. In some cases, one or more interneuron may be present in these pathways. And the example is accessory cuneate nucleus. The tracts and their functions of the subconscious level tracts. These tracts convey ipsilateral proprioceptive information and comprise spinocerebellar, spinotactile, spinoolivary, and spinoreticular tracts, etc. We will confine ourselves to the spinocerebellar system only, which comprises two parts, the posterior spinocerebellar tract. The second order neuron fibers ascend ipsilaterally in the posterior part of the lateral white column. They enter cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle and remain throughout on their own side. Second group is anterior spinocerebellar tract. These neuron fibers of the second order neurons ascend bilaterally in anterior part of lateral white column. They are uncrossed and mostly crossed. The crossed fibers double cross, first in the anterior white commissure and secondly before entering superior cerebellar peduncle to reach the cerebellum. Fibers of the neurons in the ascending tracts are arranged according to the following anatomical principles. Number one, the sensory modality, that is, one tract carries a specific sensation, such as crude touch in anterior spinothalamic tract. Second, somatotopic arrangement, that is, orderly and specific relationship exist among the fibers in the spinal cord and brainstem according to their level of origin, which is named as somatotopic arrangement. Number three, medial lateral rule, which is also defined as spatial arrangement and segmental lamination. In this group, the fibers are divided into two subgroups. First one, the uncrossed fibers, which enter at a lower level, such as sacral saddle, more medial, and the fibers which enter at a successive higher level, for example, cervical saddle, more lateral. In second group, the crossed neuron fibers which enter at a lower level, such as sacral saddle, more lateral, and the successive fibers such as from the cervical region settle more medial. Reason being that there is no crossing among the fibers and there is easy lamination of the fibers. Notable point, another notable point is that fibers also spiral from lower segments onto the dorsal aspect. The second group of tracts comprises these descending tracts. In response to sensory information received by the body, the different areas of the brain generate and transmit motor commands which are delivered through two systems. The first one is the autonomic nervous system pathways, which controls activity of the glands, smooth muscles, and cardiac muscle, and is further divided into two subgroups. First one is the sympathetic system tracts, which are which are responsible for the response to dangerous or stressful situations in the shape of fight or flight. And second subgroup is the parasympathetic system tracts, which make the person relax or reduce the body activities in the shape of rest or digest or feed and breed. The second main group of the descending tract comprises the somatic nervous system pathways. Somatic nervous system controls voluntary activity of the body through the skeletal muscles, and this system is divided again into two subgroups. The first one is the pyramidal system or the direct pathways, which control the voluntary motor activities of the person. These activities are regulated at the level of cerebral cortex. The second subgroup comprises extrapyramidal systems or indirect pathways, which control the involuntary motor activities of the body and are regulated at subcortical level. First, the neuronal organization and functions of the pyramidal system. The pyramidal system is a two-tier neuronal organization system having a unique distinction in the shape of being a single neuron which travels from all along from cortex to the spinal cord. The first order neuron of this system is present in the cerebral cortex in the shape of giant pyramidal cells of beds. These are named as upper motor neuron and their fibers descend in the brainstem and cross in the medulla and synapse on the second order neuron number 1 in the spinal cord as the corticospinal tract, which lie in the anterolateral gray column of the spinal cord, and these are named as lower motor neurons of the spinal nerves. The fibers of these nerves control the muscles of limb and trunk. Second destination is in the brainstem, which are named as corticonuclear and corticobulbar tracts. They synapse with the cranial nerve nuclei in the brainstem, which are named as lower motor neuron of the cranial nerves, and they control the muscles of the head and neck. These The pyramidal system is divided into two systems of tracts. Number one is the corticospinal tract, which controls the torso and limb muscles and is divided into two. The anterior corticospinal tract mainly for the axial musculature. Their primary function is to control the gross and postural movement of the trunk and the proximal limb musculature. The lateral corticospinal tract, which is meant for the appendicular musculature. And the functions of the lateral corticospinal tract is that they control the voluntary movement of the contralateral upper and lower limbs, especially their distal parts. Second group of pyramidal system comprises corticonuclear tract meant for the control of head and neck movements. Their main functions are voluntary control over the muscles of face, head and neck, hence movement of the head and neck, swallowing, phonation, movement of the tongue and facial expression. All these move all the fibers of the corticonuclear tracts give bilateral input to the lower motor neurons, exception being lower muscles of the face and genioglossus muscles of the tongue. Now we come on to the neuronal organization and functions of the extrapyramidal system. The extrapyramidal system is a multi-neuronal, that is, three or more than three neuron organization system of pathways, which extends from brain having upper motor neuron to spinal cord and brainstem having lower motor neurons. The upper motor neurons of the extrapyramidal system are present in the subcortical areas of the brain, and they are also named as extrapyramidal nuclei, such as basal ganglia and brainstem nuclei. The lower motor neuron of the extrapyramidal system are divided into two groups. The lower motor neuron of the spinal nerves are present in the spinal cord and they control the muscles of the limb and trunk. The second group of nerves are the cranial nerve, whose lower motor neurons are present in the brainstem and they control the muscles of the head and neck. Their functions are involuntary and automatic control of muscle tone, balance, posture, and modulation of motor plans such as coordination and maintenance of postural adjustments during locomotion. There are four main extrapyramidal pathways. Number one is tactospinal tract, which is responsible for postural adjustment and is driven by the superior colliculi in the midbrain. Second group is the lateral vestibulospinal tract, which allow the posture, movements, and balance to be modulated on the basis of equilibrium information received from the vestibular system. Third group is the reticulospinal tract, which contribute to the muscle tone and influences the automatic functions of the body. Number fourth is the cerebrospinal tract, which sends corrective commands for postural adjustment to the spinal cord. Almost all the fibers in the descending tracts cross to the opposite side before termination, exception being corticonuclear fibers for the lower part of the face and genioglossus muscle of the tongue. As regards the somatotopic arrangement, the descending tract fibers are orderly arranged and have got specific relationship among them, as they are arranged according to the level of exit, as seen in the corticospinal tract. These fibers maintain segmental organization as well. Look in the diagram, the shorter fibers, that is, the fibers for the cervical region, are located at a deeper plane, whereas the longer fibers, such as for the sacral region, are placed superficially. The reason being that there is no crossing among the fibers and they can easily exit from the spinal cord. Third group of tracts in the spinal cord are the intersegmental tracts. They are also named as fasciculus proprius and spinospinal tracts. They are classified as short tracts. The fibers of intersegmental tracts travel for 2 to 4 segments of the spinal cord only, and they are located as a thin layer of white matter around the gray matter, as shown in the diagram as the yellow-brown layer on the gray matter. They permit intersegmental information collaboration, and they also coordinate intersegmental spinal reflexes. Comments and suggestions will be welcomed. Thank you for listening and watching.